Clint Eastwood, one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, has always been known for his tough guy image, both on and off the screen. The man who gave us the unforgettable roles in Dirty Harry, The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly, and Gran Torino is not someone who holds back his opinions or lets anyone dictate his life. And now, at the age of 94, Clint has dropped a bombshell, a shocking revelation about his funeral, and more specifically, who he does not want there. As Clint enters his twilight years, he has become a symbol of longevity, resilience, and, of course, candor. His life has been lived with few pretenses. Clint has always been upfront, sharing his personal views with his audience, and not shying away from uncomfortable truths. So, when word got out that Clint had made a surprising declaration about who should and shouldn't be invited to his funeral, it caught the attention of fans and media alike. This isn't just some trivial celebrity gossip. Clint Eastwood, a man whose career has spanned decades and whose personal life has often been under scrutiny, is taking a moment to dictate how he wishes to be remembered. And it's not just about how he wants to be celebrated. It's about control. It's about deciding who deserves a spot at the table and who doesn't. Now, before jumping to conclusions, the question remains, why would Clint, who's lived such a public life, suddenly reveal something so personal about his death? What prompted him to make such a bold statement about who he doesn't want at his funeral? Was this just another offhand comment from a man who has always been brutally honest, or is there something deeper at play? And while some fans are likely nodding their heads in agreement with Clint's no-nonsense approach to life and death, others may be wondering, who exactly is Clint talking about? Who does the iconic actor feel should stay away from his final send-off? What could have led Clint to make such a drastic decision? In this video, we're going to dive into the story behind Clint's shocking revelation, explore why he doesn't want certain people at his funeral, and try to uncover the motives behind this surprising decision. Along the way, we'll learn more about Clint Eastwood's unwavering character, his complex relationships with others, and how his life's work might offer us clues about his feelings on life and death. One thing is for sure, Clint has never been one to shy away from the truth. And now, as he approaches the end of his journey, he's setting the record straight on one of life's most final events, the funeral, and making it clear that some people are not welcome in his final chapter. So buckle up. The answers may be unexpected, and the reasons behind Clint's decision might shock you. But before we dive into who Clint Eastwood wants and doesn't want at his funeral, let's take a quick look at the man himself, the iconic Clint Eastwood, and why his words carry so much weight. After all, the man who built a career out of complex, no-nonsense characters has never been one to sugarcoat things. Clint Eastwood's legacy isn't built on fame alone. It's built on an unwavering sense of honesty and a rugged, unapologetic approach to life. From his rise as a television star in Rawhide to his superstardom as an actor in films like The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly and Dirty Harry, Eastwood's persona has always been that of a man who says exactly what he thinks. He's the kind of person who isn't afraid to call out injustice, voice his opinions, or stand firm in the face of criticism. That same honesty and straightforwardness, which has served him so well in his career, seems to carry over into his personal life, and it turns out, into his views on death as well. It's no surprise, then, that at 94 years old, Clint Eastwood has taken a strong stance when it comes to how he wants to be remembered. He's a man who's had a front-row seat to both the beauty and harsh realities of life, and he's always made it clear that he doesn't have time for games. His blunt nature has made him a beloved figure in Hollywood, respected not only for his acting and directing skills but also for his no-nonsense attitude. Clint's candid nature extends beyond just the big screen. In interviews, he's often been refreshingly open about his political views, his experiences in Hollywood, and his personal relationships. He's also shared some personal stories about his family, his marriages, and his thoughts on growing older. It's clear that Clint has never been one to hide behind the veil of celebrity. He's always been himself, no frills, no apologies. As Clint's career continued to evolve into directing, producing, and even composing, his authenticity remained his greatest asset. Movies like Unforgiven and Gran Torino reflect the same blunt approach to storytelling. No sugarcoating, no happy endings, just raw and honest portrayals of flawed characters dealing with the consequences of their actions. This, of course, translates into his personal life as well, where Clint has been known to cut ties with people in situations that don't align with his values or integrity. So, when Clint made the bold statement about who he doesn't want at his funeral, it wasn't a move out of character. It was just another example of his brutally honest approach to life. He's always been the type of person to lay everything out on the table, and this statement was no different. Clint, being Clint, wasn't interested in sugarcoating his final wishes. After all, Why should he be? In Clint's world, there's no room for pretense. As his career progressed and his star power soared, he became known not only for his on-screen personas but also for his deep sense of personal integrity. Whether it was in his westerns, war movies, or political dramas, Clint's characters always followed a moral compass that often diverged from the social norms of the time. And this honesty wasn't limited to just his roles. It was deeply embedded in who Clint Eastwood is as a person. Now, as Clint ages, his views on life and death seem to reflect that same bluntness. He's never been one to cower in the face of societal expectations, and it's no surprise that he would tackle the subject of his own death with the same unapologetic honesty that has defined his career. His views on his funeral are, in a way, a final declaration of his commitment to living life on his own terms. No compromises, no false pretenses. But who exactly does Clint Eastwood believe shouldn't be at his funeral? Who has earned a spot on Clint Do Not Invite list? This question begs the next part of the story, where Clint's personal life, relationships, and experiences come into play, giving us insight into why Clint's making such a surprising decision. Let's uncover the story behind his controversial funeral guest list and explore the personalities and conflicts that might have led to this shocking revelation. Clint Eastwood is not just an iconic actor and director, he's a man whose personal life has been as eventful and complex as the characters he portrays on screen. The relationships he's had, both professionally and personally, have shaped much of the person he is today. These connections, filled with love, betrayal, and drama, undoubtedly influence his decision about who should, and more notably, shouldn't, be at his funeral. To understand why Clint is so specific about his funeral guest list, it's essential to look into the people who have come in and out of his life over the years. One of the most well-known aspects of Clint's personal life is his tumultuous relationships with women. Clint has been married twice, first to Maggie Johnson, who he married in 1953, and later to Dina Ruiz, his second wife, whom he married in 1996. Throughout his relationships, Clint has been seen as a charismatic and highly private individual, but his romantic entanglements have also been marked by public drama and conflict. For instance, Clint's relationship with actress Sandra Locke is often cited as one of the most tumultuous and controversial of his life. Locke, who starred in several of Clint's films during the 1970s and 1980s, was reportedly deeply hurt by the way Clint ended their relationship in the early 1980s. Locke claims that Clint emotionally manipulated her and refused to publicly acknowledge their relationship led to a bitter fallout, and she later took legal action against him. It's easy to imagine that such a painful chapter in his life might influence Clint's feelings about who he trusts and who he's willing to share his final moments with. Beyond his romantic relationships, Clint's connections to the Hollywood elite also play a role in his thinking. As one of the most powerful figures in the film industry, Clint has witnessed the rise and fall of numerous stars and directors, and his interactions with these people have often been far from warm. Clint has always been known for his no-nonsense attitude, and he's never been one to play the political game or engage in the typical celebrity social circles. Instead, he's built his career around authenticity and self-reliance. For Clint, Hollywood has often been a place of professional competition, where people are quick to take advantage of one another for fame and fortune. This perspective likely shapes his decision on who should and shouldn't be at his funeral. After all, in Clint's world, loyalty, respect, and genuine relationships matter far more than Hollywood status. Family has also played a pivotal role in Clint's life. His relationship with his children, though somewhat private, reveals a more vulnerable side to this tough, no-nonsense figure. Clint has fathered at least 8 children from various relationships, and while many of his children have chosen to stay out of the limelight, a few have pursued careers in the industry. His connection to his children, especially with his daughter Allison Eastwood, has been well documented, but like many families, their relationships have had their ups and downs. Clint's personal life has often been one of self-reliance, but it's clear that family is a significant part of the equation. His children and other close family members are often among the few he trusts, and it's safe to assume that they would have a place in his final moments. So, who would Clint Eastwood not want at his funeral? The answer lies in the people who failed to meet his standards of loyalty, honesty, and genuine respect. Based on Clint's history of troubled relationships and his commitment to maintaining his own sense of integrity, it's clear that he values authenticity above all else. He doesn't have room for pretentiousness, false friends, or people who have betrayed his trust. Clint's funeral guest list would likely be reflective of those he truly values, people who have supported him without expecting anything in return, people who have earned his respect over the years. As Clint grows older and approaches the inevitable, the question remains, Who will make the cut? Who, out of all the people who've crossed his path, has earned a place in his final moments? What kind of person does Clint Eastwood truly want around him when all is said and done? In the next section, we'll delve deeper into Clint's decision-making process, uncovering the personal experiences and relationships that have led him to make such a bold and surprising statement about his funeral. And what's even more intriguing, who might be excluded from his final guest list? Clint Eastwood has always been a man of mystery, shying away from the public eye whenever possible. Despite his massive fame and success in Hollywood, he has maintained a surprisingly low profile when it comes to his personal life. Unlike many other celebrities who thrive on publicity, Eastwood has carefully guarded his privacy. His desire for solitude and control over his own life is well known, and it's not just a character trait but a lifestyle choice that he's maintained for decades. This preference for privacy is especially evident when it comes to how he handles media scrutiny. Clint Eastwood rarely grants interviews and seldom makes public appearances outside of his film projects. In fact, he's been known to decline many invitations to talk shows, media events, and even press tours for his films. This level of discretion has earned him a reputation for being an enigmatic figure in Hollywood, one whose personal life is largely a mystery. While other stars may be more than willing to share the intimate details of their lives for publicity, Clint has never been one to do so. This is particularly evident when it comes to his family and relationships. Clint is incredibly protective of his children, often keeping them out of the media spotlight. His divorces, relationships, and the occasional drama that has emerged over the years have been kept as private as possible, with the actor taking active steps to minimize public exposure. So, what does Clint Eastwood's preference for privacy have to do with his funeral plans? In a way, his desire to control the narrative of his life extends even to his death. Clint has made it clear that he wants no fanfare or unnecessary attention surrounding his final moments. The way he chooses to exit the world will be a reflection of the same quiet dignity and self-reliance he's always maintained. Clint has no interest in a big public spectacle. He doesn't want anyone showing up to his funeral just for the sake of it. He's not interested in having a group of industry people or celebrities attending simply to be seen or to pay lip service to his legacy. Clint wants only the people who have truly been part of his life, those who have respected his need for privacy and shown genuine support throughout the years. It's also worth noting that Clint Eastwood's desire for privacy is rooted in his deep belief in personal responsibility and independence. From his early years in the industry, Clint has been known for taking matters into his own hands. Whether it was directing his own films or choosing roles that suited his sensibilities, Clint has always taken pride in the fact that he is self-made. His philosophy has always revolved around the idea that a man should be accountable for his own actions, his own choices, and, ultimately, his own life. This sense of autonomy undoubtedly extends to his final moments, where he would prefer to keep things simple and intimate, surrounded only by those who truly matter. As Clint nears his 94th year, his preference for privacy becomes even more significant. The older he gets, the more he seems to value the quiet, personal moments over the public ones. His funeral, in his eyes, should be no different. While many might expect a larger-than-life gathering in celebration of his legendary career, Clint is clear that he doesn't want that. He wants a small, private gathering, people who have been part of his journey, not just fans or acquaintances seeking to capitalize on his fame. In Clint's mind, the people who truly deserve to be at his funeral are the ones who understand and respect his wishes, who have been there through thick and thin, and who have genuinely shared his love for family and close-knit relationships. But here's where things get intriguing. The Hollywood world is filled with people who might want to show up at Clint's funeral for reasons that don't align with his values. He's worked with countless actors, directors, and producers over the years, some of whom may have been close to him at one point, and others who may have been opportunistic or driven by a desire for fame. As we move forward, we'll explore who exactly might find themselves excluded from Clint's guest list due to his commitment to privacy. Who does Clint view as worthy of his inner circle, and who will be left out in the cold? Clint Eastwood's relationships with fellow Hollywood stars have been varied and complex throughout his career. While he is known for his private nature and preference for staying out of the spotlight, his interactions with other big names in the industry have often been a source of curiosity. These relationships, both positive and negative, play a significant role in understanding who Clint would want at his funeral and who he might deliberately exclude. Over the years, Clint has forged strong bonds with a select few actors, directors, and producers. He is known for having a deep respect for those who have worked with him, especially those who share his values of hard work, authenticity, and dedication to their craft. These individuals are the ones Clint keeps close, and they would likely be the ones to receive an invitation to his final farewell. But there are also those who might not make the cut. Clint's relationships with certain Hollywood figures have been less than friendly, and it's clear that there are a few people in the industry who he might not want near him in his final moments. One of Clint Eastwood's most famous and sometimes controversial relationships in Hollywood was with the late John Wayne. While both actors were iconic in their own right and shared an affinity for Western films, their personal relationship was anything but cordial. John Wayne was known for his larger-than-life persona and his views on politics and masculinity, views that often clashed with Clint's more nuanced and introspective outlook on life. As Clint rose to fame in the late 1960s and 1970s, he found himself in direct competition with Wayne, especially in the Western genre. But it wasn't just professional rivalry that fueled their tensions, it was also their differing worldviews. Clint Eastwood, a man known for his independent spirit and defiance against Hollywood norms, had little patience for John Wayne's staunchly conservative and traditional views. Wayne, in contrast, was a symbol of the old Hollywood system, embracing a more straightforward, black-and-white view of the world. Clint, having spent years in the business, was much more aware of its complexities and was known for his more progressive outlook. This ideological divide created a rift between the two men, and it's said that Clint never fully respected Wayne as a person or as an actor. Clint was not afraid to challenge the status quo, and Wayne, with his staunchly conservative views, represented everything that Clint found limiting in the industry and in life. In addition to Wayne, Clint's relationships with other Hollywood elites have often been distant. While he's worked with some of the biggest names in the industry, such as Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman, and Meryl Streep, Clint has always kept a professional distance. His no-nonsense attitude has earned him the respect of many, but has also made him difficult to get close to. Clint's preference for staying out of the limelight, coupled with his tendency to avoid Hollywood social circles, has made it harder for him to build lasting friendships with other stars. The result is a network of people who respect him but don't necessarily call him a close friend. So, when it comes to Clint's funeral, who would be considered part of his inner circle? The actors and filmmakers who have worked with Clint for decades and shared his vision of cinema and life would likely be on the guest list. These are the people who understand Clint's need for privacy and have always respected his boundaries. The likes of Morgan Freeman, with whom Clint has worked on multiple films, would almost certainly be invited. Freeman is not only a collaborator, but a close friend who shares Clint's values of integrity and professionalism. On the other hand, Clint's professional relationship with certain figures may not be enough to guarantee an invitation. While Clint may have respected John Wayne's contributions to cinema, his personal views and the animosity between them suggest that Wayne would not be among the invited guests at Clint's funeral. The same could be said for other Hollywood figures with whom Clint has had ideological differences or personal conflicts over the years. Clint's funeral, in his eyes, would be an intimate gathering, one reserved for those who truly understood him and respected his legacy, not those seeking to capitalize on his fame or position. As we move forward, we'll take a closer look at Clint's more personal relationships, including his family and close friends. In the next section, we'll explore how Clint's family dynamic might influence who is and isn't welcome at his final farewell. When it comes to Clint Eastwood's personal life, the most significant figures are undoubtedly his family. Clint has had several high-profile relationships over the years, and his family dynamics are a key part of understanding who he might want to be at his funeral. But as private as Clint is about his personal life, his family has been at the center of a number of his most important decisions, including those surrounding who he allows into his inner circle. Clint has been married twice and has had numerous relationships throughout his life, resulting in a large family. His children, ranging from his first marriage to his more recent relationships, have played a significant role in his life, but not all of them have been in the public eye. Some of Clint's children are well known in Hollywood, while others have opted for more private lives. However, it's clear that Clint has a strong bond with his children and values them greatly. One of the most well-known figures in Clint's family is his son, Scott Eastwood. Scott, who has followed in his father's footsteps and become an actor in his own right, has been very public about his admiration for Clint. The two share a strong bond, and it's likely that Scott would be one of the first to attend Clint's funeral. Throughout the years, Scott has spoken about the lessons he learned from his father, from his work ethic to his values about life and family. Their relationship is one built on respect and admiration, and it's hard to imagine Clint's final moments without Scott by his side. In addition to Scott, Clint's daughters also play an important role in his life. Although they tend to stay out of the limelight, Clint's relationships with his daughters show a different side of the legendary actor. One of his daughters, Allison Eastwood, is an actress and director who has worked with Clint on several projects. She has always been very close to her father, and the two have shared a strong connection over the years. Given their bond, it's likely that Allison would be in attendance at Clint's funeral, as she's one of the few family members with a long-standing personal and professional relationship with him. But Clint's family is not just about his children. His extended family, including his ex-wives, also factor into this equation. Clint's first wife, Maggie Johnson, was married to him for over 30 years, and despite their divorce, they remained on good terms. It's not hard to imagine that Clint would invite Maggie to his funeral, as they shared a significant portion of their lives together. Their children, including Scott and Allison, have always spoken highly of their mother, and she seems to have maintained a cordial relationship with Clint, despite their separation. On the other hand, Clint's relationship with his second wife, Dina Ruiz, was more tumultuous. The two were married for nearly 15 years before divorcing in 2014. While Clint and Dina have a daughter together, Francesca, their marriage was not without its complications. Publicly, Clint has never been as open about his personal life with Dina, and their relationship has been characterized by many as distant. Given the breakdown of their marriage, it's uncertain whether Dina would be invited to Clint's funeral. While she remains the mother of his youngest child, Clint's private nature and the end of their relationship might mean that she is not included in the close circle of those attending his final farewell. Clint's personal life has always been a balancing act, and his funeral guest list would likely reflect this. On one hand, he would want his children, Scott, Allison, and Francesca, by his side, as they represent the core of his family. Their bond with Clint runs deep, and they are the ones who truly understand the man behind the public persona. But on the other hand, Clint's relationship with his ex-wives and certain extended family members might be more complicated. The emotional distance between Clint and his second wife, Dina, and the fact that their marriage ended in divorce, could be a determining factor in whether or not she would be invited to his final moments. As Clint Eastwood nears his 94th birthday, it's clear that he has thought a great deal about life, death, and the legacy he will leave behind. In numerous interviews throughout his career, Clint has been surprisingly candid about his personal philosophies, which include his views on death and how he would like to be remembered. These reflections provide crucial insight into the type of funeral he might envision and the people he would want by his side. Clint has always been known for his stoic, no-nonsense demeanor. He's a man who values hard work, privacy, and family, traits that have shaped not only his career but also his outlook on life. In several public statements, Clint has revealed that he doesn't fear death. His pragmatic approach to life has always been one of acceptance. He knows that death is an inevitable part of the human experience. However, his perspective on death is not one of fear but of quiet reflection and preparation. One of Clint's most famous quotes comes from his role in the film Unforgiven, where his character reflects on the violence and regrets of his past. It's a sentiment that mirrors Clint's own views on life. He has often talked about the idea of leaving behind a body of work that speaks for him rather than dwelling on the past or letting others define his legacy. In his mind, a life well lived is a life that stands the test of time through action, not words. Clint has also been quite private about his end-of-life wishes, but he has hinted that he doesn't want a grand, theatrical ceremony. This aligns with his long-standing belief in simplicity. He's a man who values directness and no frills, so it's likely he would prefer a low-key funeral, one that focuses on honoring the essentials, his family, close friends, and the impact he made throughout his career. Given his humble nature, it's improbable that Clint would want an extravagant memorial. Instead, he would likely opt for a private ceremony where only those closest to him are present, people who understood him and shared in his life. While Clint has made his wishes for privacy clear, he has also expressed gratitude for the enduring legacy he has in Hollywood. The fact that Clint is still actively involved in projects well into his 90s speaks volumes about his passion and commitment to his craft. However, Clint's reputation as a master of understatement suggests that he would prefer his funeral to be a quiet occasion, without the pomp and circumstance typically associated with Hollywood legends. His legacy, after all, speaks for itself. The guest list for such a private affair would undoubtedly be filled with people who have played a pivotal role in Clint's life and career. This would include his children, who have always been his closest confidants, and perhaps a few longtime friends from Hollywood. People like actor and director Robert Lorenz, who has worked with Clint on several films, and other industry colleagues who shared in Clint's vision, will be fitting attendees. These individuals have seen Clint through all stages of his career and would understand the man behind the legend. But Clint's desire for simplicity may mean that certain figures from his past would not be invited. Hollywood is a town rife with intrigue, and Clint's long history means that he's encountered his share of controversial figures, people who may have crossed paths with him but whose relationship with Clint was less than close. With his commitment to family and those who have truly impacted his life, Clint's funeral would likely exclude anyone who wasn't part of his inner circle. In the next section, we will explore some of Clint's most significant relationships throughout his life, those that have shaped him into the man he is today. From his bond with co-stars to the mentors who influenced his career, Clint's interactions with others have played a key role in defining his legacy. As we look deeper into these relationships, we may uncover more clues about the people Clint would want to surround him in his final moments. Stay tuned as we dig into Clint Eastwood's connections, what they meant to him, and how they will likely affect the guest list at his funeral. It's clear that his relationships have shaped him, and understanding these dynamics will help us get a fuller picture of the man he is and the legacy he wants to leave behind. When it comes to Clint Eastwood, his inner circle is tight-knit. Known for his preference for privacy and his relatively low-key lifestyle, Clint doesn't easily let just anyone into his personal life. So, when speculating about who would be at his funeral, we can safely assume that the people closest to him are the ones who have been by his side for the longest time. These individuals, whether family, close friends, or long-term colleagues, are the ones who shaped his journey. Let's start with Clint's family, his children. Clint has 8 children from various relationships, and he's maintained a solid bond with most of them. His family has always been a crucial part of his life, and it's clear from the way he speaks about them that they mean the world to him. His son, Scott Eastwood, an actor in his own right, has publicly spoken about his father with admiration, often sharing insights into their relationship. Clint's family values are deeply rooted in his life, and it's likely they would play a central role in his final moments. Beyond his immediate family, Clint has maintained friendships with a number of Hollywood icons over the decades. One of the most significant figures in Clint's life was his longtime collaborator, the late director Don Siegel. Siegel was a mentor to Clint, and their partnership resulted in some of Clint's most iconic films, such as Dirty Harry. Their bond was not only professional but also personal, as Clint often spoke about how much he admired Siegel's directing style and wisdom. It's safe to say that someone like Siegel would have been a part of Clint's close circle and might have been a natural inclusion in any final ceremony, had he still been alive. Then there's Clint's long-term friend and frequent co-star, the late actor Lee Marvin. While Clint and Marvin shared an intense on-screen rivalry in films like The Big Heat, their off-screen relationship was much warmer. They had mutual respect for each other, and Marvin's humor and straightforwardness resonated with Clint. A close friendship that lasted through the years, Lee Marvin's presence in Clint's life cannot be overstated. Marvin passed away in 1987, but Clint has always credited him as being a significant figure in his personal and professional development. If Lee Marvin were alive today, his presence at Clint's funeral would be a given. Clint has also enjoyed a strong working relationship with other industry veterans, such as Morgan Freeman and Gene Hackman, with whom he starred in Unforgiven. Freeman and Clint have both publicly shared deep respect for one another, and their friendship has endured for decades. Morgan Freeman, known for his warmth and humility, shares Clint's values of hard work and dedication to one's craft. Freeman would undoubtedly be someone Clint would want at his funeral, representing not just a colleague, but a genuine friend who has stood the test of time. In Clint's private life, his romantic relationships have played a significant role in shaping the man he has become. His ex-wives, Maggie Johnson and Dina Ruiz, have been through significant chapters of Clint's life. While his marriage to Dina ended in divorce, Clint has always remained close to his children from both marriages. It's important to note that Clint has generally been reserved about discussing his personal relationships, but it's clear that those who played a major role in his personal life would also be part of his funeral. The presence of his ex-wives, particularly in an event as personal as a funeral, might speak to the level of maturity and respect he has for these significant individuals in his life. As Clint's funeral would likely be a private and understated event, we can imagine that many of the Hollywood figures who crossed paths with him but didn't share a personal bond would not be present. Clint's funeral would likely exclude the big stars or industry players who only knew him on a professional level. It's more likely that Clint's funeral would include only those who truly knew him and understood his core values, people who had a meaningful connection with him, whether it was through work or life experiences. As we move forward, it becomes clear that Clint's legacy is deeply intertwined with his personal relationships. The individuals who would be at his funeral aren't just people from his past, they're the ones who walked with him through his triumphs and challenges. In the next section, we'll delve into Clint's complicated history with some of the more controversial figures in his life, people who may have been at odds with Clint, and what role they might play or not play in his funeral. Stay tuned as we continue exploring the individuals who have influenced Clint Eastwood's life, career, and legacy. As much as Clint Eastwood is celebrated for his achievements, his career and personal life haven't been without controversy. Over the decades, Clint has had his fair share of public clashes with individuals, some of whom, despite their differences, might have played a part in shaping his legacy. Would Clint Eastwood want these controversial figures at his funeral? What does his history with them tell us about the man behind the fame? Clint's reputation as a tough guy, both on and off screen, is well known. He has often spoken his mind and stood by his beliefs, even when they were unpopular. Some of his comments over the years have drawn sharp criticism, particularly in regard to his political views. Clint is known for being outspoken and, at times, unapologetically blunt. This has led to friction with other Hollywood stars and public figures. One such individual is film director and producer Richard Donner, who worked with Clint on the Deadpool. Despite their working relationship, Clint wasn't shy about voicing his displeasure with Donner's style of filmmaking. This kind of tension isn't rare in Hollywood, but it does raise questions about whether Clint would want such a figure at his funeral. Then there's the matter of Clint's political views. As a staunch libertarian and conservative, Clint's political leanings have occasionally caused friction with his peers, particularly in Hollywood, where liberal views tend to dominate. Some actors and directors who disagreed with Clint's views have publicly criticized him. One of the more well-known conflicts was with actor and director Spike Lee. Lee, known for his outspoken views on race and politics, has publicly criticized Clint's portrayal of African-American characters in films like Gran Torino, where Clint's character is a grizzled, racist veteran who has to come to terms with his prejudices. While Clint has defended his choices, Lee has openly called out the movie for perpetuating harmful stereotypes. Given their sharp differences, it's unlikely that Lee would have any place at Clint's funeral, at least not if Clint had a say in the matter. Another controversial figure in Clint's life is film critic Roger Ebert. Ebert's reviews of Clint's films, especially his later work, were often less than flattering. While Clint always maintained a strong sense of confidence in his work, it's clear that the negative reviews from figures like Ebert might have stung. Clint's defiant personality, however, meant that he didn't allow such critiques to define him. But does that mean Clint would have invited someone like Ebert to his funeral? Perhaps not. Clint valued respect, loyalty, and a sense of camaraderie. People who spent their careers publicly tearing down his work may not have found a place in his final moments. One of the more significant and personal conflicts Clint had was with fellow actor, and sometimes rival, John Wayne. Clint's relationship with Wayne was always fraught with tension. While Wayne was the epitome of the all-American cowboy, Clint's role as the anti-hero in spaghetti westerns broke the mold. Wayne, a staunch conservative, and Clint, who was more flexible in his views, didn't always see eye to eye. Although Clint never publicly disparaged Wayne, their differing personalities and philosophies on life meant that they often avoided direct interaction. It's hard to imagine Clint extending an invitation to Wayne's family or friends, given the history of their animosity. It's possible that Clint might have made peace with Wayne in his later years, but even so, the deep divide between them would have likely kept Wayne out of Clint's final circle. However, one figure Clint has consistently spoken fondly of is his longtime friend and collaborator, the late Sergio Leone. Despite Leone's reputation for being a demanding director, Clint and Leone shared a mutual respect for each other's work. Leone played a pivotal role in Clint's rise to fame, especially through the Dollars trilogy films. It's likely that Sergio Leone would have had a significant place at Clint's funeral had he been alive. While they worked in a very different Hollywood era, their bond went beyond the professional realm, and Clint held Leone in high regard. As we look at the array of public figures who Clint Eastwood may have had contentious relationships with, it's clear that Clint's circle at his funeral will be made up of those who truly mattered to him, family, close friends, and those with whom he had genuine respect, both professionally and personally. The people who would attend his final moments wouldn't be just anyone. They would be those who, for better or worse, played a defining role in his life and career. As we approach the inevitable end of Clint Eastwood's life, one thing is for certain: his legacy will be one of monumental significance. With a career spanning decades and a trailblazing legacy in both the world of acting and directing, Clint's impact on Hollywood and the world is undeniable. However, what does Clint Eastwood's funeral represent, not just for his family and friends, but for the millions of fans who have followed his career? Will his funeral be the somber end of an era, Or will it be a celebration of a life well lived and a career that defined generations? At 94 years old, Clint Eastwood has earned the right to reflect on a lifetime of work and personal achievements. His remarkable ability to stay relevant in an ever-changing entertainment industry is something that few can boast. As we look ahead to his eventual passing, the question on many minds is how the world will pay tribute to this icon. Will the event be a Hollywood affair, filled with colleagues, collaborators, and stars who were a part of his journey? Or will it be something more intimate, with his family at the forefront, reflecting on Clint's impact as a father, grandfather, and close friend? Either way, it's clear that the celebration of Clint's life will transcend the usual celebrity funeral. Given Clint's long history in film, particularly with iconic characters like the man with no name from the Dollars trilogy and the hard-hitting detective Dirty Harry Callahan, one can expect that his funeral will be filled with nods to his cinematic contributions. Film clips, iconic imagery, and even musical tributes to some of the most unforgettable moments from his career would certainly find their way into the proceedings. From the sweeping landscapes of the spaghetti westerns to the gritty urban streets of Dirty Harry, Clint's roles have left an indelible mark on popular culture. A tribute in the form of cinematic moments might serve as a reminder of how deeply embedded Clint Eastwood is in the history of cinema. Moreover, Clint Eastwood's role as a director and producer has shaped the direction of American film. His ability to capture raw emotion and portray the complexity of human nature in films like Unforgiven, Million Dollar Baby, and Gran Torino is second to none. As a director, Clint's style was often minimalistic, allowing his actors to take center stage and letting the story unfold at its own pace. This unique approach will likely be highlighted in a tribute to his directorial work at his funeral. It's safe to say that Clint's influence as a director will be remembered long after he's gone, and his funeral may reflect that enduring impact. Then there's Clint's personal life, his philosophy, his beliefs, and his rugged persona. Clint Eastwood has always been a man of few words, but when he spoke, it was always with authority and conviction. This no-nonsense attitude permeated his on-screen performances and personal interactions. Clint was never one to seek the spotlight for his personal life, yet he's been a fixture in the public eye for over half a century. Fans have grown to admire not just his on-screen persona, but also his off-screen qualities, his strength, resilience, and independence. Clint's funeral will likely reflect the values that shaped him throughout his life, from his military service to his relentless work ethic and commitment to artistic integrity. For fans around the world, Clint Eastwood represents more than just a movie star. He is a symbol of masculinity, self-reliance, and personal responsibility. His characters often stood for justice in a world that was often unjust, and his portrayal of flawed, yet ultimately honorable, men made him a relatable and iconic figure. His death will likely spark a global outpouring of grief, admiration, and respect. From fan tributes to special screenings of his films, Clint's legacy will continue to live on in the hearts of millions. Finally, Clint's funeral will undoubtedly spark reflections on the evolving landscape of Hollywood itself. As a man who witnessed firsthand the evolution of the film industry, Clint represents an era of filmmaking that is rapidly fading into the past. His death will mark the end of an era, one that saw the rise of classic westerns, the gritty realism of 1970s action films, and the exploration of human morality in contemporary dramas. With his passing, Hollywood will lose a true legend, and that loss will reverberate across the entertainment industry for years to come. In the end, Clint Eastwood's funeral will be a reflection of the man himself, simple yet profound. It will be a moment to honor a life filled with unparalleled contributions to cinema, a man who left an indelible mark on film, and someone whose legacy will resonate for generations. Whether it's a small, intimate gathering or a grand celebration of his life's work, Clint's passing will be a moment to reflect not just on the legend he created on screen, but also the person he was off screen, the kind of man who defined an era and whose influence will never fade. As we prepare to say goodbye to Clint, one thing is clear: the world will never forget him.